Welcome, Vicoding University, training humans to train themselves. Uh, we're automatics, we're creatures of habits, just doing what we do. Okay, and one of the things we want to look at is what is it that we do. Okay, in other words, one of the things happens is we get this trigger, and it sort of initiates sort of a thinking, a feeling, an association with things, and we either are attracted to it. There's a drive to be attracted to it, or to go away from it. There's sort of some sort of feeling of what you should do, or some sort of sense about it, and that's all on automatic. That's how why we're able to survive is because we go through the world and we can guide ourselves through the world in a safe and productive way because we've sort of set up these uh, definitions and meanings and things like that. But also, we not only definitions, we also have our automatic searches the environment and sort of looks, I mean, it knows where we're going, so to speak, and it looks for the most rewarding way of getting there, shall we say. Okay, so remember, we do things for because we get rewarded for it. We're creatures of habit, you know. So one of the questions is our definitions set in stone? Okay, and the answer is no. Now, by definition, a definition is set in stone, right? Okay, this is what it means. Okay, this is what it is, and that's what a definition is. But now we're saying simply that, well, it's not really always true. It could mean something different. So, as an automatic, remember, depending upon our what we're going for, what we're looking for, what we're accomplishing, right? It might have different meaning, and what's the old stories? Like these two kids were given a Christmas present, and the Christmas present was a big pile of manure, and the first kid looks and goes, "Oh," right, and the next kid gets digging as fast as he can, and the kid says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, with all that manure, there must be a pony inside here," or something like that. In other words, it depends on what you're seeing it means and what the reward you're seeing is going to get you. Okay, now we focused on getting. Remember, who you're becoming is really you want to focus on because that's going to get you what you want. Now, let's take it back just a little bit. Okay, what I want to, I mean, what do you like? I mean, what don't you like? What do you think's good? What do you think's bad? What's satisfying? What's not satisfying? And the question is, are we trained that way, or is it just an absolute fact or truth? Okay, and we've already sort of indicated a little bit that it's a training. Okay, how we see the world is a training, and our language, our culture, in itself, sort of trains us in that way. We define, give this label to this, and then it also comes around sometimes and fixes us in and says, "Oh, that's who we are." But remember, if we start to see ourselves as somebody that grows, see, it means a whole different story. So what we're trying to get the sense of is how we see things can grow and develop as well. Okay, what we like and what we don't like, what satisfies us and what doesn't satisfy us, can change as well. Um, I mean, I all right. When I was in college, I mean, dinner sometimes was a bag of chocolate chip cookies. What can I say? I mean, you're sitting here, you're coming home, and you got studying to do, and you got all this stuff. So I'd buy a bag of chocolate chip cookies, and I'd eat it. Big quart of milk, chocolate chip cookies. That was good for another 3 hours of study. Okay, but there was an interesting part about it. Okay, it's like I'm one of these guys that that I can't eat just one. Okay, it's like if I have just one, I want another one, and another one, and another one, and there's no stopping. Okay, and as a kid, I remember many times I ate and ate and ate until I was sick. That's just how I was, I guess, allowed to be train myself. And later on, I found that I had to train myself to stop. Was that the right way? So I mean, they always talk about there's hunger and satiation is when you talk about food. Some people, they never get hungry, so they don't get gain weight. Other people are satiated right away, and they're boom, therefore they don't gain weight. So I was one of those people that if I didn't really see the food or things like that, I didn't really get hungry. So I could go and go and go and go and go and go, but as soon as I saw the food, oop, I was in trouble. Okay, so stopping was always a challenge. So I started developing ways to get myself to stop. So if I, simply, if I wanted to stop at half a bag of chocolate chip cookies, I'd close the bag. But I had to have so many in my hand, and I had to have a certain amount of milk left over to make it all work. It was quite, but I created a routine and it worked. And that is the key. Now, the other thing about stopping is, remember, I mean, we're sort of, in a way you might think, we're very trained to be fickle in a way, I guess you could say it, but we can train what we want to starting and stopping. So remember, I think I told you about when I'd go bike riding. I'd go bike riding, and all of a sudden I'd get tired, and I think my body would be, you're tired, go home or quit or whatever. And all I had to do was, and I prepared this ahead of time because I always knew, about this point your body starts to complain, and I'd have this project I was really interested in, was working on, and I'd start to think about, what I was going to do next and how I was going to work it out and things like that. And I started thinking about it, and all of a sudden I stopped thinking about how tired I was. So now we're shifting our focus, right? So we can control our focus a little bit. And all of a sudden I'm taken away into this project. Next thing you know, my bike ride's done, so I've got the good exercise in, I got my project solved, and a lot of good things got accomplished. Now, when I was in, I don't know, grade school or something like that, I mean, it would be the end of the day, and I was so tired. I could not hardly keep my eyes open. It was like, oh man, and I'd be looking at the clock up there that was moving so slow. But as soon as that bell rang, I had so much energy because I had all these things that I wanted to do, and I ran out there. And so from being like, oh, I gotta have rest, to I've got so much energy, I don't know what to do with. I mean, we can switch just like that, and that's because of our focus and what we see that we want to do. Just like I can get, if I shift my focus in the bike ride, I go from being tired all of a sudden to being interested and engaged in a project. So we can do that. Now, what we like and what we don't like, remember, is again, it's up to us, right? What do you like? What's your favorite color? Oh, we know that those are right. Oh, I like this and I don't like that. Do you like this? Oh, I don't like it. Stuff like that. Okay. Now, can those change? And the answer is, of course, those can change. Of course, in college and high school, depending on who you associate with, things changed. Okay, so my son took us out for, I don't know if you guys are familiar with mancha ice cream. Okay, it's a Japanese flavor, and basically it's, I'm not sure what it is. It's sort of ice cream that's made of some sort of leaf, green leaf, and it tastes like ice cream made of a green leaf. I mean, would you take a green leaf and put it in ice cream? I mean, not sweet or anything, hardly at all. Okay, and yet my son really liked it, and he was telling us about it and things like that. So I started, I guess I sort of does have it. Okay, it's interesting. And, yeah, and I start to like it a little bit. But it's one of those things you have to, at first you go, I don't like this, but now I do. Okay, see, it's like, what's good, what's bad, what's all those kind of things. But I mean, people are so adamant, this is rotten. I mean, you're stupid. And it's like, maybe they're not. And then once you understand them a little more, I mean, for instance, like you can take any object, you pick an object up and you look at it and you can go, can you get interested in it, curious about, I wonder why it's like that, or get curious about it, or get mad, that's so stupid. I mean, we can do that. We can generate those things. Now, remember, as we talked about, that can start to become a habit, because now it's who we're starting to become, because we've sort of made some decisions, defined it in a certain way, and now have attached emotions to it, and so now it's starting to become who we are, shall we say? Okay. And we can change those things too. Okay, just like I was first, the ice cream was like, oh, and then like, and That's interesting. And now it's like, oh, every once in a while, yeah, I think I'd like a little mancha ice cream. I mean, just in the right times, there'd be some really good places. And my son, he started thinking it's more and more like, because that's what his friends used to do. They'd go out for mancha ice cream, be sort of unique, special. I guess, I don't know really the whole story of that. Okay, but now, remember, we're trying to set up our training program so it works. And one of the things we know is that we go into these places, we're going to go into places where, just like on my bike ride, I knew my body was going to complain and it was going to get tired. So I knew I had to develop ahead of time something to be interested in ahead of time so that I would, so to speak, have something to think about. When we go on trips with our children, when they're young, we know they're going to get bored, and we bring something for them to do, crayons, this, that, etc., little games to play and stuff like that, and we prepare ahead of time. So as we start to train ourselves to do things, we want to start developing those things as well. Now, some of them may start out like the mancha ice cream. In other words, we develop it ahead of time like the mancha ice cream. It's interesting. Oh, yeah, in certain places. So now we find those certain places and, oh, yeah, this would be a great time for mancha ice cream. A little refreshing, not too sweet, little something to eat. Okay, and it's great, and it's perfect for this time to have it, and it works into our routines. We might have something like that we could break and put into our routine. Now, one of the other things we got to talk about is this idea of stopping and starting, because a lot of us have, shall we say, the question is, when are we going to really, we're going to be training ourselves all the time. We're going to start thinking about, when are we going to take a serious time and train ourselves, or a serious time think about it and put some time really behind this and create a project for ourselves that we're going to develop ourselves in this area. And it, to start with, it might be something like mancha ice cream, where we sort of have to develop it a little at a time, and then it's going to grow and develop. But we need this. Like with my chocolate chip cookies, some of us watch so much TV or have so much screen time, and we don't know how to stop it. But we can develop ways of stopping it, so that we can say, okay, I'm satisfied with that much. Okay, and now I want to add this, because one of the things we want to think about is, as we start to become responsible for who we're becoming, we start understanding we need to be balanced. We need to have we need to work, sure. And some workaholics need to learn how to stop and go home and be part of their family part of the time. And some people that are with their family or friends all the time need to figure out how to go to work, or how to go exercise, or how to get themselves to go to bed, or how to, whatever they need to do. You need to learn to start training yourself, because now you're the one responsible for who you're becoming, right? Okay, so that's who you're training. You're training yourself. And all these things, you have little aspects of control over. But once the trigger hits and you already start to go, into the response, you're out of control. See, most of your life is trigger, response, and then just taken away into something. And if it's taken away in something productive, that's great. But if it's taken away into too many chocolate chip cookies, it may not be that great. Okay, so you want to be looking at, what you're being taken away into, and how you put an end to it. Even work, we can work too hard. And one of the things I learned how to do is, I'd be working, especially like at home, around the yard, you do a project or something like that, and I'd get my son out there or someone with it and helping me, and at the end of the day, I'd stop, and we'd clean up, and we'd look at, okay, what did we get done today? Oh yeah, that feels good. And you start learning how to say, okay, this is how much of the bigger project we want to take on, and it feels good. It's just like when a lot of these videos, like a lot of times I have a zillion thoughts, and just getting one thought and getting it satisfied is tough. So I've had to learn how to slow that down, because this connects to this, connects to this, connects to this. So we need to sort of start figuring out how to balance, and a lot of times it's learning how to get ourselds to stop, how to redefine things, how to shift a focus, how to make things interesting, and things like that. So these are things that we can learn to train ourselves to do. And in doing that, we get more control over our lives. So Vibe Coding University, working on focus, definition, meaning, and feeling of stuff and what it really means, and understanding that we can adjust it to make it work better for us so that we actually get more and more done. Okay, Vibe Coding University, training humans to train themselves. Okay, we'll see you next time.